Hi again. Welcome to this session. Today we'll be talking about how we define academic integrity and what are the fundamental values of academic integrity. Especially, we will try to relate this with educational concept from global perspectives. What are we supposed to be doing? First, we will try to define academic integrity and then identify fundamental values associated with academic integrity. And I'll also try to call your attention to any cultural implications, the impact of cultural differences on academic integrity, such as, for example, honor courses. We see that some universities are referring to honor courses, and we will try to root where they are coming from. And then see the interaction of academic integrity with learning, both learning and teaching, in addition to research. Therefore, when we combine them all these three, how we develop institutional integrity policies, and more importantly, maybe how we develop institutional academic integrity culture, we will try to talk about that. Okay, then my first question to you: how would you define academic integrity? What is your definition of academic integrity?
So may I have a say, Professor?
Sure.
So first of all, it's a relatively new area or discipline, we can say, and it requires an adoption of a varying extents to embracing values, so I think it should start before the academic year or education starts, because it's a very important issue, and it's now developing. So and also so it requires a mutual understanding between the students and the members of the faculty. So that's it, Professor, for now. So that's my the definition. So I just thought about it.
Okay.
And wanted to save.
Your understanding of academic integrity is mutual cooperation and understanding of students and faculty staff, right?
Yes.
So, okay. What else do you add to your understanding of academic integrity?
From a practical view, the first thing that comes to my mind is plagiarism, actually. I don't know, and also the data procedures we carry out in our researches. I think it's about the honesty you have while conducting your researches, while conducting your studies. This is my practical view, actually. I read these fundamental values, but so, I don't know.
Okay. One, honesty. Okay, it's going to fundamental values that we'll be talking about to academic integrity, and the other one, plagiarism. Okay, plagiarism is very important here, but be careful, we are focusing on academic integrity, not merely plagiarism. Why? Why do you think we focus on academic integrity rather than plagiarism?
Because it's not just that.
Okay, plagiarism could be one of the issues dealing with under academic integrity.
There's more to it.
Plagiarism is
one important reason that we are doing this on purpose. What is this?
Because plagiarism maybe is only one aspect of academic integrity.
It is one of the aspects. But what kind of aspect? It is an academic misconduct.
Misconduct, yes.
We do not, indeed, while dealing with this within this field, we do not want to merely focus on misconducts, because what we try to do, we try to increase familiarization. Familiarization towards what? Towards positive things. Like to encourage more rather than focusing on sanctions or rather than focusing on academic misconduct. So, of course, we will be talking about plagiarism a lot under academic integrity. However, what we try to do when we are increasing awareness is focusing on positive things. Therefore, we are dealing with academic integrity. Okay, these are two important points. What else do you add?
So, can I have a?
Yeah, sure. Kubilay.
So it's also is at the same time. So we also need to be sensitive and appreciative for the culture that we are teaching.
Okay. So what do you mean by this?
So we have to be sensitive about the values, because the values do not mean the same for everybody, or for every culture, let's say.
So you're talking about cultural differences here.
Yes.
And
so we have to be sensitive to those.
And some other principles of academic integrity. We will see that they will be interacting with culture. And
Yes.
there are cultural differences across nations, so we will need to pay attention to cultural differences. And as researchers coming from ELT field, we are lucky here because we are already familiar with intercultural communicative competence. Are you familiar with this?
Yes, of course.
Communicative competence later goes beyond its borders, and now we call it as intercultural communicative competence. What do we mean by intercultural communicative competence? Remember, for example, in the 20th century, the main purpose of teaching or learning English was developing native-like fluency. Therefore, at that time, when we course books or the methodology that we followed in the classroom, we realized that culture was considered one of the important topics. However, be careful, not any culture. At that time, we focused on L1 culture, mainly American culture or British culture, as which was regarded as cultural imperialism at that time. And later, we realized that, remember the studies of Cemal Tekin, for example, he was one of the proponents of this issue. He said that, okay, we need to deal with culture in EFL classes, however, not necessarily focus on British culture or American culture. Okay, we may bring some issues from these two cultures. However, in addition to this, we will also need to bring some other materials representing the other cultures. Why? Because we started to question the aim of learning a foreign language, especially learning English. Previously, people thought that, okay, I'm going to learn English because I'm going to talk to someone who speaks English as his or her mother tongue, L1 speakers. Therefore, the aim was developing L1-like fluency. However, later we questioned the numbers of speakers. For example, recently it is believed that there are about 350 million L1 speakers, L1 English speakers, and another 350 million L2 speakers, such as, for example, coming from the African countries. They are speaking English as their L2s because of colonialism. This is another cultural imperialism. So, totally, there will be about 700 million people speaking English as either their L1 or L2. What about foreign language speakers? We believe that there are about 2 billion EFL speakers. Therefore, when we consider the chances of talking to someone in English whose mother tongue is not English, who's speaking English as a foreign language, is more than our chances to speaking to someone who speaks English as either L1 or L2. Suppose, for example, when we meet at international organizations, there will be more people whom you are talking to EFL speakers, not L1 or L2 English speakers. Therefore, we started to change the methodology and we started to change the issues that we are dealing with in EFL classes by not only focusing on English culture or British culture or American culture. We brought some other cultural elements from the other cultures. Therefore, remembering this will be very important for us because when it comes to academic integrity, we will see that there will be different cultural implications. And because of cultural values, people or students might be acting differently. Therefore, understanding their cultural values will be very important here. And towards the end of the session today, we will focus on institutional needs analysis in terms of developing academic integrity policies. Therefore, it will be very important to identify these cultural differences before we start developing institutional policies. Okay, anything else you'd like to add to our understanding of academic integrity? Is there anything else?
From what I read from those fundamental values of academic integrity, the interaction between the faculty members and the students also is included in this category. So we have to be just, honest, respectful, while evaluating, assessing, establishing relationships with our students. So this is one aspect of academic integrity from what I read.
Okay. Fair.
Fairness, certainly.
One of the other values that we'll be talking about, what we mean by fair, for example, when it comes to assessment, we need to follow transparent approaches and consistent transparency and consistency. I believe these are some other additional values that we need to talk about when it comes to academic integrity, transparency, and consistency. We need to act consistently towards our students. Okay, suppose, for example, you are scoring a written assignment, and what is your criterion related to grammatical mistakes? This is your rubric, and you follow this criterion. And when it comes to another student, again, you are expected to follow similar criterion for that student in terms of consistency and to become fair to your students. Okay, here you see the definition that we made as European Network for Academic Integrity. Compliance with ethical and professional principles, standards, practices, consistent system of values that serves as guidance for making decisions and taking actions in education, research, and scholarship. Ethical, professional principles. So there will be some ethical principles. Ethical principles might be mainly associated with culture.
Certainly.
So, ethically acceptable in Turkey, for example, may not be acceptable in the United Kingdom, or just vice versa. What ethically acceptable there may not be acceptable here. So we need to be aware of ethical principles and cultural differences. In addition to this, professional principles. So this time, when it comes to profession, it means that we will be focusing on another social group here. So the interaction between these professionals, we need to understand this interaction, and the interactions might be changing in accordance with different professional organizations, and we need to be careful about this. So, what principles, standards, practices, and consistent system of values? We need to try to understand all these values here before we define our understanding of academic integrity. Why do we need them? Basically, we need them because they will be guiding us, that they will be helping us for what? To make a decision, to take any action, where take any action related to education, related to research, or related to any scholarship. So when it comes to education, we need to be very careful about these principles and following these principles very carefully. This is a definition that we made as a European Network for Academic Integrity. Now I'm going to move to International Center for Academic Integrity, and by the help of their definition, we will try to understand fundamental values of academic integrity. We already mentioned some of the fundamental values. Could you please name 6 fundamental values?
Honesty, trust, fairness, respect, responsibility, and the last one is courage.
Okay.
Hocam, sorry to interrupt, but are my friends able to see the content right now, or is it me only?
I can see the PowerPoint presentation.
So it's only me. Okay.
You don't see the PowerPoint presentation, Miranda.
No.
Okay. Maybe you leave and then re-enter. The
Okay,
meeting.
I'll try that. Okay.
Okay. So, honesty, trust, fairness, respect, and responsibility. These are 5 fundamental values, followed by courage. Why did I put courage here? And when you read the fundamentals of academic integrity, International Center for Academic Integrity will be focusing on 5 fundamental values in addition to courage. Why not we put courage here? When I drew this figure, it reminded me something that we have in language. What is this? Language skills. Which language skills do we have?
Listening, speaking, reading, and writing.
Listening, speaking, reading, and writing. These are 4 language skills or main language skills. What about sub-language skills? What are they?
I think there was one mentioned in the CFR about being sensitive to cultural values.
What are 2 sub-language skills?
Oh. In the CFR? Mentioned in the CFR?
No.
Oh no. Can't remember.
Grammar and vocabulary.
Oh yeah, okay. Grammar and vocabulary.
Grammar and vocabulary. They are sub-language skills. What do we mean by sub-language skills? Okay, reading is the main language skill. What do we do when we read? We comprehend. It means that we receive message. Listening, another receptive skill. What do we do when we listen to? Again, we comprehend, we get the message. These are receptive skills. What about productive skills? Writing, speaking. What do? We deliver the message. So either we are sending the message or receiving the message by the help of these main language skills. It means that we communicate. However, by the help of grammar or merely by the help of vocabulary, we do not communicate. We use these 2 sub-language skills in order to maintain main skills. In order In order to read and comprehend, what do we need? We need lexical information.
Yes, of course.
We need grammatical information. In order to write, what do we need? Again, we need grammatical information, lexical information, which is similar here. I mean, these can be considered, it is my understanding, by the way, these 5 values can be considered as the fundamentals of academic integrity supported by courage as a sub fundamental integrity. Honesty. Okay, you need to be honest. What happens if you are not honest? Maybe you would be in difficulty in a situation if you are not honest. It means that you should have the courage in order to act honestly. Or you should have trust, or you should be fair to your students. However, if you do not become fair to your students, maybe you would be in a difficult situation. Again, what do you need? You need courage. So, all these fundamental values should be supported individually by courage. What do we do? In order to write, in order to read, in order to listen to, in order to speak, we need vocabulary and grammar. So courage will have a similar function here as a sub fundamental skill here. What do you think?
So it's a kind of prerequisite, you mean, for
That's right. If you do not have courage, probably you won't be following the other 5 fundamental values.
yeah, I agree with this.
So
That-
may I have a say, Professor, also about
Sure.
this? So
Sure.
I checked a document on the internet from the Center of for Academic Integrity from 1999, but there wasn't courage. So I
Yes.
think it was added later on, I guess.
Yes, they added later. They started with 5 principles
Mhm.
first, and later they added this. So if you go to fundamental values of academic integrity, in the introduction section, you will see the development, different stages that they followed here while adding the 6 values. So they started with 5 values and later added the 6th value there. Okay, that's true. Then what do we understand from these 6 values? Let's check how the International Center for Academic Integrity defined them. Starting with the honesty, what do they say regarding honesty? Academic communities of integrity advance the quest for truth and knowledge through intellectual and personal honesty in learning, teaching, research, and service. They also added service here. Mainly, we deal with learning, teaching, and research in the academia, but they also cover service here. So, what do they mean by honesty? Especially, we are talking about truth and knowledge. Sometimes we see that some people, especially people from outside the field of academic integrity, call academic integrity as academic honesty. Maybe the first value when we think about ethics, for example, we talk about the association in Turkish. Do you remember the name of the association? It is Akademide Etik Derneği.
Yes.
It is a good evidence that they are not familiar with the relevant literature because they are calling themselves as professionals in the academic ethics. So how would you relate ethics and academic integrity? What is your understanding of ethics in relation with academic integrity? Is it possible to call it as academic ethics?
Actually, no, professor, but ethics are universal, I guess. So,
What about in?
I think ethics is related in the way that it comprises the matters related to values. So it's about the moral, it's about what's morally good and what's morally bad. And so without ethics, academic integrity wouldn't be what it is.
So, would you consider ethics as a subcomponent of academic integrity, or academic integrity as a subcomponent of ethics?
I think it would be the later one.
Okay, so I guess this is going to be a good topic for you to investigate. So please, for next week, try to check relevant sources, and next week we can think about it. We can talk about it for 5 or 10 minutes, and try to understand the interaction between ethics and academic integrity, which appears as a subcomponent of which, or what might be the possible interactions between ethics and academic integrity, or any different, if there are any differences, what might be the differences between these two terminologies. Okay?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. So this is what we understand from honesty. We are talking about truth and knowledge through intellectual and personal honesty. Intellectual honesty will be related to education here. However, we are not merely dealing with intellectual honesty. In addition to this, personal honesty is also important. So your characteristics as an individual will be playing an important role again here. Moving to the second one, this time we have trust. What do we mean by trust according to this center? Academic communities of integrity both foster and rely upon climates of mutual trust. I guess, Kubilay, this is your understanding of academic integrity, right? Mutual trust. So you talk about the interaction between student and faculty. So this is showing the mutual trust. We should have mutual trust with students. We should establish this trust students before we start an academic semester.
I think we could also add the trust between the faculty members and the institution.
So indeed, if you are checking the components here or counterparts, whom do we have at the faculty? Okay, we have faculty members, academics.
Yeah, it's the multi-stakeholder actually concept. So we have faculty members, we have students.
If you check our webpage, European Network for Academic Integrity, there will be some surveys, and our surveys will be targeting 4 different groups. Who are these people? In Turkey, this may not be the same from the other countries compared to the other countries, but in the other countries, for example, at the universities, there are researchers.
Yeah.
At the universities, there are lecturers. Not necessarily all lecturers are researching, or not necessarily all researchers are lecturing. So there might be different understanding of academic integrity among researchers and lecturers. Okay, researchers, lecturers, and managers, in addition to students. We also have administrative staff here. We are not only talking about directors of program here or head of programs, but what about the secretariat, for example? How do they interact with the other step, with students. Consider, for example, many students are suffering from the actions of öğrenci işleri, student affairs. So check what they say on the internet about this step. Or what about the interaction between, for example, the head of the department and the secretariat? How do they interact with each other? So all interactions among different stakeholders will be important here, and we can focus on 4 different types of stakeholders here, not only faculty members or lecturers and students. So it's possible to expand this. Climates of trust encourage and support the free exchange of ideas, which in turn allows scholarly inquiry to reach its fullest potential. I'm afraid we need to go far way to achieve this aim. I mean, to establish climate of trust, because we are talking about free exchange of ideas here. And to be honest, this will take some time for us to implement this value. What do you think? Probably, I'm including myself here. We don't feel safe enough to develop this value, the value of trust. Maybe we will need some institutional support in order to exchange ideas freely. Not only institutional, maybe national support or political support. We will need any type of support here in order to develop such freedom.
Actually, in the past, I have experienced some instances of stealing, not only ideas, but also people stealing others' papers. So maybe this can be included here.
Here, you mean articles? Their
manuscripts? Yes, publications. I'm talking about publications.
Okay, how did they do this?
For example, you write a paper together, maybe in cooperation, and then the other party goes and publishes it with just their names. Or
Okay,
they can, the professors may do that with their students' papers.
Okay, this is one of the issues that we will be dealing with: publication ethics and authorship rights. This is quite important under academic integrity. I mean, if you're a professor, for example, it's possible for me to invite you for collaboration, right? And then I may ask one of my students, okay, we will have collaborative research, but I do nothing. I just ask my student to do the research, to write the report, and then I submit it. Sometimes we see that professors may do this by using their only names, or sometimes they put the student as the co-author. However, we need to be very careful here. What do we mean by a co-author? Or who is the principal author, main author of the study? Or who is the corresponding author? What are the responsibilities of the corresponding author and co-author? And some journals, when you submit a manuscript recently, will ask you to identify the contribution of each author, for example. Which author contributed which section? To what extent? Mention the percentage, for example. Okay.
So this will be indicated in the paper? She did this, he did this.
Sorry?
So we will be writing who did what on the paper?
You're right. Let's suppose, for example, as this group, as 5 people, we submit a manuscript to a journal. And the journal editor may ask, who is the corresponding author? The corresponding author will be submitting the paper on behalf of the others. Who is the corresponding author? Okay, Hatice is the corresponding author. So what does it mean? It means that Hatice will be sending the manuscript to the journal editor. And then Hatice will be adding the other 4 people as her co-authors. However, many of the journals are asking for permission from the co-authors. Okay, once you submit the manuscript, the journal editor will send me an email. Hatice submitted a paper entitled blah blah to our journal and listed you as a co-author. Do you confirm this? Because sometimes we see that, for example, sometimes some new researchers, young researchers, put the names of important people in the field and submit the paper to the journals. Why? Because the young researcher is aware that, okay, he's new in the field and his paper is not that strong to be published by that journal. However, if the young researcher puts the name of a prominent name in the field, he will increase the chances of getting acceptance from that journal. So recently, journals are also asking for confirmation from the co-authors. If I do not contribute to a paper, then I cannot be listed as an author. This is called as guest authorship, or which is another type of academic misconduct. Some people also call this as gift or authorship, in which situation you have no contribution or very little contribution, which cannot be counted as authorship. Okay, but we will be dealing with this issue in the Publication Ethics Week. Okay, I'm moving forward. Fairness, especially when it comes to assessment. This is very important. In order to be fair, what do we need? We need rubrics. If you do not have rubrics, if you do not have well-developed rubrics, then it will be very difficult for you to be fair. Therefore, most important thing for language teachers, especially that are dealing with productive skills, is preparing rubrics.
And I think I would like to add something here, and I think the students should know about this rubric, not exactly the rubric, but they should be aware of what we expect from them. So in terms of transparency.
They should be aware of the rubric. To my opinion, the teacher is responsible for sharing the rubric, exactly the rubric, with the students at the beginning of the semester, so that the students should know the criteria clearly. What are the consequences of what behaviors? So, if I make a grammatical mistake, what happens in my writing? If I repeat the grammatical mistake, what happens? The students should know this. So, at the first stage, the teacher should develop a rubric, or maybe as a better alternative, if you are talking about institutional policies here, the institution should develop this rubric. I know that, for example, at Bursa Teknik University, you have well-developed rubrics for speaking and writing. So I appreciate your efforts in developing these rubrics, for example. You, as the instructors of teaching these courses, come together, develop these rubrics, and you all are aware of the criteria in these rubrics, and you revise these rubrics when necessary. This is very important. I mean, borrowing a rubric from another institution and then trying to apply it as it is may not work. Again, we need to consider institutional needs here. We need needs analysis. So it is best to develop these rubrics by the staff working there. Of course, you can take a good working rubric from another institution and then work on it in order to make it perfect fit with your expectations. However, you need to be very careful about it. Developing the rubric followed by rater training. This is also important. Suppose, for example, Miranda is teaching writing, but when it comes to assessment of student assignments, the assignments are scored by Kubilay. Miranda is not scoring them. So Kubilay is, as the head of testing office, for example, writing section, he will be scoring all writing assignments. There are also some other people who are helping to do this. Let's say, for example, there are 3 raters who will be scoring student papers. But what do they do when it comes to scoring? Do they interact in relation with each other? And what about the scores that they deliver? So we need here correlational analysis in order to see the interaction among raters. Establishing inter-rater reliability is another important dimension here. How can we establish such inter-rater reliability? Do you have any idea?
Maybe blind review?
Okay, but blind review, but statistically, this is a statistical question that I'm asking.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't know much about SPSS or statistics, but t-test, paired samples.
This is a specific question to the others.
Oh, okay. So they took the course. Okay.
They already studied SPSS with me.
Okay.
Are you checking from the net?
Is it like correlation coefficients?
Sorry, my microphone was muted. We are checking how much correlation, how much homogeneity we have in the ratings.
Okay, it is possible to check correlation, but not Pearson correlation at this occasion. Cohen's kappa could be a much better alternative.
Yes, kappa is another statistic. Yes,
kappa is their alternative in terms of checking inter-rater reliability, or simply you do not deal with correlation analysis, but you check the consistency. What do we check here? Let's say, for example, your rubric, you are scoring the papers out of 10. One of the raters scored 8, the other rater scored 7. Is this acceptable?
8, 7, yes.
8,
yes.
7. This is generally acceptable. For example, when we refer to TOEFL, they score writing sections out of 10, and they tolerate inter-rater reliability up to 10%. So 10% difference could be considered as a threshold level here for setting inter-rater reliability. However, if one of the raters scores 8, the other scores 6, for example, it means that there is a large gap between raters here. So what do we need to do? We could have
third rater.
Okay, inviting these two authors, two raters together, and then asking them what causes this difference, this huge difference. It means that one of the raters may need to change, may need to revise the decision. Or maybe it could be another idea to send the paper to a third reviewer to understand the situation better. But it means that if there is a gap more than 10%, then there is a problem. So fairness should be, as you see here, should be supported mainly with the assessment criteria here. Clear, transparent expectations, standards, practices to support fairness in the interactions of students, faculty, and administrators. We also added previously researchers here, because faculty may not be covering researchers. This is mainly associated with lecturers. And moving forward to respect, academic communities of integrity value the interactive, cooperative, participatory nature of learning. They honor, value, and consider diverse opinions and ideas. Respect is also associated with the development of intercultural communicative competence. By the way, are you familiar with this competence?
I am.
If you like,
Intercultural competence.
yeah. Intercultural communicative competence encourages learning about the other cultures. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to change your culture once you learn the other cultures. Instead, you just become aware of the other cultures. For example, you see two Indian men who are hand in hand. At first, for example, you might think that their gender preferences are different from the other people. However, later you learn that they do this because of their cultural values. So what do? You appreciate this. Maybe at first you think differently. However, later, once you become familiar with their culture, they learn and become familiar, and then respect them. So it is very important in developing intercultural communicative competence, respecting the other cultural values as they are, not criticizing. So you learn the rules of their culture, you become familiar. It doesn't mean that you need to change your cultural values because you are new cultures. You just learn what they are doing, why they are doing. So this is becoming familiar, and respecting is an important consideration of developing intercultural communicative skills. We see it here as a fundamental also academic integrity.
I think we can also add being openness to differences, because we cannot know everything about a different culture, but when we interact with people from other cultures, we should be aware that cultural differences may occur there, and we don't judge. We just be open and aware that there can be differences. I think it's also included, because we cannot know everything.
These are all covered by intercultural communicative competence. I mean, while you are becoming familiar with new cultural elements, at the first step, what do? We just see new cultural applications, and maybe you criticize. However, we don't have the right as individuals, we don't have the right to criticize anyone because of the cultural values. So no criticization, only appreciation of different cultures.
May I add something, Professor, here?
Sure, please.
So when you start to talk about this issue, so it has occurred to me that so there are two terms in intercultural communication, actually, ethno-relativism and ethnocentrism. So we are all born with ethnocentrism, and as we know different cultures, okay, and then we start to be ethno-relativists. So we accept the others, actually. So we accept the other cultures' values or other people opinions and ideas, and so we grow as we grow. Sorry.
That's right. This what we call as acculturation, cultural adaptation. Maybe you can check the other relevant terminologies. But by the way, at the department, we offer intercultural communicative competence course. Mustafa Hoca delivers that course, so maybe it could be a good idea to check the course content in order to familiarize yourself with the principles of intercultural communicative competences. Okay, that's fine. And responsibility. We need to feel responsible to change something, to take the action. Otherwise, for example, I consider myself as a responsible academic when it comes to academic integrity. Why? Because I am offering this course at the department. And when it comes to you, I consider you as responsible PhD candidates. Why? Because you pay attention to academic integrity and you are eager to increase your awareness regarding academic integrity. So it shows that we all share the similar responsibilities and we have similar expectations in terms of responsibility. So what do we need? We need to transfer this responsibility by increasing the awareness of other people at our institutions. The problem here, if you are the only one at your institution who is responsible for the development of academic integrity, probably it won't work. However, if you feel the support of the other lecturers, then you will see that you are changing to start something. If you read the fundamental values here from International Center of Academic Integrity, there is a very interesting quotation. You see it here. Academic integrity is a way to change the world. Change the university first, then change the world. So, if we have an ambition of changing the university, we should start changing the university with our own institutions. However, if you are alone, then you won't be able to change your university. You need the support of the other people. So at the first step, it is a good idea to find some other people who feel responsible for the development of academic integrity principles. And then when you become together, you will be much stronger in order to go further. And courage, we regarded courage as the sub-fundamental issue, fundamental value of academic integrity. In order to maintain the other 5 fundamental values, we need to have courage. Otherwise, as we said, it wouldn't work. Okay, these were 6 fundamental values identified by International Center for Academic Integrity. Now I am moving to an excerpt from Tracy Bretak here. Remember, when we start talking about academic integrity, I first questioned your understanding of academic integrity. Maybe at the first glance, it seemed something easy. But later, when we start the dimensions of academic integrity, it becomes a more complex issue because we need to understand opinions regarding academic integrity. We are talking about academic integrity here. Be careful. We are all coming from ELT department, from the similar educational background. At our network or at the ICAIA network, people all are coming from different backgrounds. That is quite important in terms of developing academic integrity because it is a multidisciplinary field, which means that we should have a common understanding of all academics. We should have a common understanding of academic integrity. Therefore, academic integrity may mean something different to natural scientists, may mean something different to medical people, may mean something different to educational scientists or social scientists. So we need to have the people from different disciplines in order to have a common understanding of academic integrity. And while we are doing this at the networks, we try to come together from different disciplines and have a common understanding of academic integrity, including all the other definitions. For example, you see our glossary here, European Network for Academic Integrity glossary. We enable the glossary in several languages, including Turkish here. So I suggest you to check the terminologies in the glossary in order to increase your familiarity related to academic integrity terms. The important thing about the glossary is we have a working group at the network, people from different disciplines, and we try to have a common understanding of all the terminologies there as academics of different disciplines. So they try to function as a common understanding of terminology here. This is important. Otherwise, as a multidisciplinary it becomes very difficult to understand it. We already talked about cultural differences and cultural interactions are identified here. Teddy Fishman was the president of International Center for Academic Integrity for several years. And in her chapter in Tracy's book, she calls attention to honor codes. Honor codes by which many American students pledge not to lie, cheat, steal, nor tolerate those who do. Honor codes. What are the roots of honor codes? Indeed, at American institutions, Fishman indicates that they have associations with religion. So we need to take religious aspects into consideration also. We see that, I guess, no religion on earth allows lying or cheating or stealing something. Therefore, these are common principles of all religions. And if we refer to religion, for example, when we are designing institutional academic integrity policies or thinking about the principles of academic integrity policies, we may see the reflections there. Last year, I was invited to deliver a talk at a conference in Pakistan. And Pakistan is considered to be one of the countries in which academics are accused of academic misconduct. So while I was delivering my speech there, I tried to relate it with the values of Islamic religion, for example. If you are plagiarizing, it means that you are stealing something from the other academics. You're misleading the other people. So what about the consequences of such behavior in your religion? for example, we may question people to think about this from several different perspectives. And here we see that, for example, honor codes have their root in religion. What about the aim of building academic integrity policy? Indeed, academic integrity policy can be associated with developing institutional academic integrity culture. What do we mean developing a culture of academic integrity? It means that as the academics, as the students, as the researchers, as the administrative staff, all people at the university, at the institution, have a common understanding of academic integrity, and they do their best in order to follow the fundamental values of academic integrity. So, if we develop such culture, then it will be very easy for us to follow the principles, the fundamental principles of academic integrity, because you will see that all people around you are following these principles, and if there is anyone who is not following the principles, it is easy to spot, and then later to ask him or her to stop such misconduct or turn this into good habits or something else, or if necessary, sanctions. Otherwise, if you realize that if many people around you are following or acting academic misconduct, then it will be very difficult for you to try to change these people. So developing the culture is very important in order to follow the principles of institutional academic integrity policies. When it comes to policy development, I'm not sure whether you had the opportunity of checking an academic integrity policy, institutional academic integrity policy, especially at American universities. You can find such policies, not only at universities, but at many high schools in the United States. You will see that many of the schools have already developed their institutional academic integrity policies. Mainly, academic integrity policies have three different functions. What are these three different functions? The first one is detection of academic misconduct. The second one is reaction towards academic misconduct. The third one is prevention. Unfortunately, prevention does not exist in many of the policies. Many of the policies merely focus on reaction. What do we mean by reaction? We detect academic misconduct. What shall we do? What are the sanctions? What do you mean by sanction?
So, punishment?
Punishment.
Okay, punishment. Okay. So, these are considered sometimes sanction, sometimes output.
Punitive actions or?
Yeah, Tracy, for example, was also considering sanctions as outputs. But we are referring to, indeed, we are referring to punishments. What to do in case of academic misconduct. Suppose, for example, you are teaching writing, your student submitted an assignment, and you realize that your student completely copied expression from another source, pasted it to her paper, and then submitted it to you as if her own assignment. So, an academic misconduct, what to do? What might be the sanction? Many of the policies focus on sanction. Unfortunately, none of Turkish universities have developed such policies yet. In the United States or in the United Kingdom, almost all universities have developed such policies, mainly dealing with sanctions, reaction, in other words. Some of them also include how to detect, for example, plagiarism, or not only plagiarism, but also contract cheating. Contract cheating is becoming more popular recently. So in addition to plagiarism, detection of contract cheating is becoming more important. Reaction, detection. However, more importantly, in our policies, we need to focus on prevention. Prevention requires education, increasing awareness and providing educational materials, some training sessions to our students. Therefore, the policies should be including the third element, the third important element. This is the prevention. However, as concluding remarks here, I'd like to call your attention that developing the institutional policy is not the end of the road. Indeed, as institutions, we need to keep these policies up to date, always checking for possible improvements, because especially considering the technological developments, there will be changing dimensions regarding academic misconduct by students or by the other stakeholders involved in this part. So we need to be improving our policies all the time. However, be careful. This is not easy to develop an institutional, especially academic integrity policy. It is almost impossible to do it yourself. Therefore, probably if you have such an intention, probably you will need support from some other experts. Within this perspective, at the European Network for Academic Integrity, I propose to establish a working group on academic integrity policy development. The board has approved the establishment, and we'll be working in a month as a working group. If you want, of course, you are more than welcome to join us. It doesn't require to become a supporter or a member of the network. You just send an email to me if you want it. You just send an email, and then you may become a team member of the working group there if you like. Okay, this is the end of my talk, my lecture indeed today. I'd like to leave some time for you. If you'd like to talk about something else contributing to our discussion, our lecture today, please feel free to do it.
You said that the universities, Professor, don't have a clear in Turkey. We don't state the policies. We don't have policies. But I'm wondering if at the School of Languages at BTU we are doing the right thing. Now, for example, with the distance learning, we have written the syllabi, and in the syllabi it's stated that plagiarism cannot be accepted, will not be accepted. And we have stated the detector that we are using and the percentage. Is this enough, like, you know, as a school to state all these things, or do we need to do more about this?
Fortunately, such a statement is problematic. Problematic. Okay. You can benefit from text matching software, but be careful. This is a text matching software. It is not a plagiarism detection tool. plagiarism can be detected by a human being, not by the software. So this is a problematic claim. You cannot say that we are detecting plagiarism by using Turnitin. You can say that we welcome submissions, assignment submissions through Turnitin, and we check similarity. And the second issue is related to ratios. This is the other problematic thing. If you focus on ratios, it means that, okay, up to 20% is acceptable or up to 25% is acceptable. Unfortunately, it is something too bad that you can do to your students. Why?
Yeah,
Because
20%.
you
Yeah.
are encouraging them to plagiarize up to 25%. Okay, this is my course content for writing skills course. This is a first year course at the ELT department. Okay, you see the plagiarism policy that I share with my students. What do I do here? Plagiarism is a serious breach of academic trust. In academic work, our words and ideas are the turning in someone else's work as if it were your own is a form of theft. When you use someone else's words and ideas, whether it is the work of a famous writer or fellow student, without crediting the source or authorship of those words and ideas, you are plagiarizing. So definition, I define what we understand from plagiarism. So here is the bottom line. Original work only, credit is the credit to ideas, writing, or words from someone else other than you. Either accidental or intentional, there is no tolerance for plagiarism. Okay, I need to clearly tell my students that no tolerance for plagiarism. You need to submit all your assignments through Turnitin, and as a lecturer, I will determine the originality of your assignments by checking them against plagiarism. Plagiarized work will automatically receive 0 for the assignment. Please check our policy for plagiarism for further details. No mention of, as you see, there is no mention of any ratio. For example, up to 25% similarity is acceptable. What does it mean? It means that you can plagiarize, as an implied meaning, you can plagiarize up to 25%. Even 1% plagiarism or plagiarism in a single sentence cannot be acceptable. This should be clearly stated. So please remove the numbers from your policy.
Hocam, also I would like to add something at this point about the text matching softwares. I encounter with my students sometimes that just because we are teaching English, they can steal something in Turkish and then just translate that.
Okay, unfortunately, text matching software cannot detect translate plagiarism. Some text matching software might be doing this, but many of them will not show you this. Just a second.
Especially in Turnitin, when you submit something in Turkish, the ratios will be really low, no matter how much you, how can I say, steal. That's another issue, actually. The database of the Turnitin or other software matching machines.
Article here on testing of such tools, text matching software. So you can learn about the weaknesses and strength of text matching tools. When it comes to translation, unfortunately, they do not perform very well right now. Okay. Any more ideas or questions? If not, I am going to stop
Thank
the
you
recording.
for responding to the question. Hocam, what did you share? We didn't see the screen that you shared. We still have the PowerPoint. What was that you were reading from? It was your course content, right? About plagiarism.
It was my course content. Let me send you the link. Just a second, please.
Thank you.
Oh, I cannot send the link for that course content, but I can share you the course content later because there is something wrong with uploading documents to my webpage, to my personal webpage. So I cannot upload documents. I'm going to share it with you later. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, my pleasure.
Interestingly, there is some sort of weird noise pollution today, which is coming
Okay.
on and off, on and off. It's like, as if, we are going into an airport and coming out of the airport.
I hear something similar. Maybe it would be a good idea to turn your microphones off when you are not speaking. Therefore, we avoid such background noise. Okay, I am stopping the recording because it is almost, we exceed 90 minutes. Yeah.